So have you ever been in your kitchen and you've had the water on and you smell a sulfuric or a rotten egg smell? Let's say you're on a well water system. And that could be an indicator that your hot water tank anode rod is going out and probably needs to be replaced. So I'm going to show you how to do that today. I demonstrated earlier the tools that we need. You're going to need a garden hose. You're going to need a replacement anode rod. You're going to need a flat tip screwdriver. I like to use an impact wrench with a 1 1/16 deep well socket. You can use a 1/2 inch breaker bar instead of this, but I've had difficulty on this, so I went with the big guy. So the first thing that you do, you're going to want to find your breaker box, and you're going to find the label that says water heater, and you're going to turn the power off. First things first, safety. Next thing you'll do, you'll hook up your garden hose. Right down here at the bottom of your hot water tank. And then I just run it right on out the garage. Let it drain down the driveway. I don't drain it down onto the grass, mainly because we have a lot of salt in our system and I don't want to run the risk of killing the landscape. So once we have that hooked up, we're going to turn off our water supply line. It's now off. Flip up the pressure relief valve. You probably heard that. You'll start to see water flowing out the garden hose. You can get your flat tip screwdriver. There's a screw head right on top. Give it a slight twist. That'll relieve some pressure, help it to flow more. Now the other thing you can do is turn on a kitchen sink. We'll go ahead and do that. You can see the water coming out of the end of the hose down in the driveway now. So our goal is to drain about 2 gallons of water out of here. You don't have to totally drain the hot water tank, just a couple gallons. You pop off this plastic top, and while this is draining, it's draining kind of slow, you have some insulation in here. You want to zoom in on this? So you have, this is insulated. Down underneath this insulation is the nut that you want to get to. So I just use the flat tip screwdriver, cut around this insulation. I try and get out as big a chunks as I can, because I'm going to reuse this when I put the new anode rod in. I'm just cutting out the edge, around the edge, so I can get as big a chunk out of here. This gives you something to do while the water's draining out. All right, so I got a nice chunk there. I'm going to keep digging this out until I get down there to that nut. So normally from the manufacturer, this anode rod should last you about 5 years. Depending on the quality of the water that you have, You may have to replace it a little bit earlier. The replacement rod costs about $40 versus hiring a plumber to come out here, trip charge and whatever they charge by hour. A lot of them think they're lawyers. You know, 90 bucks an hour or so. Now the downside is if you never change this out, you run the risk of your hot water tank rusting out and draining out. And if that happens, then you need to get it replaced. And that costs you, here in our area, costs about $2,000, and they have to get a permit now. Not every place does that. Requires a permit, but here we do. You can replace it yourself. That's easy. That could save you some money, but if you charge somebody to come out and do it for you, it's about $2 grand. So you can do $40 every year, every couple of years, and save you a lot of money. Extend the life of this hot water tank. As you can see, that hex wrench or hex nut is down there quite a ways. I'm almost there. Looking down at the driveway, it's still draining pretty slowly, so I got I got plenty of time. All of this is going to go right back in this hole when I'm done. There we go. Uh-oh. And that's fine. So the other thing I have, this may be a little bit hot yet. So I have a rag. You can use a set of gloves. And this is your anode rod. So normally you can tell if it needs to be replaced, right? So that down at the bottom, it's about the same width as your new one. However, up here, it's totally gone. Up here, you have a little bit of wear. So I would highly recommend replacing this anode rod. The problem that you have, if you don't, this could rust out and drop down to the bottom of your tank and help with the rusting. So we're gonna replace it. Now the key on these, I found the hard way, make sure these cables, even though they're foldable, make sure they're as straight as possible. I've actually had some come in and they've been twisted down at the bottom, and I've twisted this whole thing right off and it fell right down to the bottom of the tank, and I had to replace the tank. It's pretty simple, just feed it right on in. And then to put it on, I do not recommend using the impact wrench. This is where I would recommend using the breaker bar. Just because, like I said, you don't want to run the risk of over-tightening it and breaking it off. We have it. It's now been replaced. Hasn't taken me more than a few minutes. Shove all the insulation back in. Replace the plastic cap, and you're done. Right? So now we do reverse order. Now we're going to tighten this screw back up. Turn on our water, let the tank fill back up. We're going to take our garden hose out. And we'll let it finish draining out the driveway. Now I recommend not tripping this breaker right away. Let this fill up all the way before you turn it back on. And the reason for that, you have two heating elements in here. One at the bottom, one at the top. If you turn that breaker on and there's no water on this heating element, you're running the risk of burning that out. That'll be a little bit over $100 to replace that. But you can put all your tools away while you're doing all this. And then throw away your evidence. Do you have any questions?
How long will this take around?
Just a few. Yeah, turn that faucet off. Yeah, and we'll let it fill up. I'm going to put my tools away. By the time I'm done, it should be time to turn the breaker back on.
So how do we know when it's full? Because nothing clicks, there's no sound. So
Yeah.
How would you know? 5 minutes, 10 minutes? Everybody's tank size is probably not the same.
But you notice we didn't drain hardly any water out
Yes.
there. Not a whole lot. We probably only drained it down to about here. We're probably good now. I'm going to take my time, put my tools up, and then I'll flip the breaker, and you'll be good. All right. All right. Thank you.